Always great to catch up with the head coach of Saluki softball, Jen Sewells. The Salukis only 2 games in this weekend due to some great rain down in the state of Florida, but the 2 that Coach Sewell and the Salukis played came out on the victorious side. Coach, one, thanks for the time. I know it's going to be another busy weekend for you and your program, but, well, disappointed, I'm sure, that you just didn't get every game in, right? Because those are always opportunities to play this time of year. You need game reps.
Yeah, I think we found out it rains in Florida, so and that's okay. I mean, we're a team that can be disciplined in that situation. So we knew when we got up Friday, it was try to get both games because the other 3 weren't guaranteed. So I thought we took care of that.
Let's start with UC Riverside first. Look, there are so many practice situations, right, that you can put your team in saying, hey, we're in the 7th inning, you're down 1 run, got to find a way to win this game.
Yep.
But there's one thing to do that in practice during the week here. It's another thing to do it in an actual game.
Yep.
What did you see from your group in a game that was mostly a standstill at 1-1 after 2 innings to grit one out and find a way to win it in the 7th?
Yeah, I thought both teams had hit a lot of balls hard, and we actually scooted in the outfield quite a bit because we were concerned it was kind of death by singles up until that moment. Nobody could hit anything hard enough. We got into some balls, they got into some balls, and they went nowhere. So you could sense the tie was coming. And, we were intentionally walking the kid, the Nadia Witt kid, who's incredibly talented. And had carried most of their offense in that game. And we let a ball get loose over the plate, and she got us for a run. And what I always appreciate about our program is nobody panics, but I think that's experience. I think that's having probably 8 seniors standing in the dugout. And everybody just kind of looked at, we knew we were going to turn the lineup over. And anytime we could come with a lefty who can get on, and I thought Bailey Kaler and Kat did that. And, pretty much caused an error. We knew the ball was popping all over the place. There were so many balls that, like we talked about before we came on, just hit people in the chest. And I told her, I said, just punch it in the ground, which is not really our philosophy at all, and give the top of the lineup a chance to get you in. So
it may not be your program philosophy, Coach, but the part of that, though, is you have to play where you're at.
Yeah.
So the importance of knowing that, not that I'm sure it didn't surprise you at all, but to know that your team say, hey, you adjusted to the conditions that you were in. You knew all the surrounding. That's all part of it, because as you advance in this thing and as you go throughout the valley, as you go hopefully throughout the NCAA tournament, you're going to play in different environments that you're going to have to get attached to and learn quickly how to play.
Yeah, and this was one of those things. We are a doubles type team, and we couldn't get the ball to go over anybody's head, and neither could they really. So I was incredibly pleased to watch the top of that lineup, especially Warwick, who seems to be just a walk-off fiend, just really has her best at bat in that moment. And she had struggled a little bit in that game. They were mixing us really well off speed, and I thought she did exactly what she needed to do, was drive a pitch into the air and give us a chance to score. So
we kind of touched up on it just a little bit before we get to the Iowa game. 5 errors in your 2 games on Friday. You had I think only 2 through your first 5 games.
Yep.
What do you kind of really pinpoint that to? Is that a concern at all, or is that one of those things where it's just kind of like what we hinted at? It was kind of where you were at, field conditions, et cetera, that that your group more times than not defensively is going to be a strong part for you.
Yeah, I think there were a couple balls that just bounced off people's chests. I know one went over Riley Hamilton, so in a perfect spot, and the last thing she saw was it go over her forehead. So, there's a couple things where you can't control the field, and we just kept talking to them about that. Like, you may have to just goalie it down, and I watched, I think Jenna Christensen in the Iowa game just literally turn into a soccer goalie and punch it down to the ground, pick it up, and get the out. It wasn't the best of fields, but the important part about being on the road in a neutral site is come out with a win any way you can. And we're going to be in some situations like that in the postseason where you have to go to somebody else's field and play a really good neutral game, and then you have to eventually come up against the host. So they're going to know their field. And now we'll be comfortable. UCA's all turf. I said, don't worry. We actually left the water off of our field yesterday trying to play a little bit choppier type brand of ball. And we made some errors in practice, and we were like, hey, this is how this turf's going to play. So get used to it, find the short hop, trust yourself and don't second guess it when the ball's screaming at you. So
What's impressed you about Liz Warwick and what she's been able to do? Not even just from necessarily the clutch hits, just overall play through the first 2 weekends.
I think her ability to probably have an at bat that she hates, and that's really not that bad, but it's just not up to her standard. And by the end of the game, to adjust so quickly, and there's really very few places to get her out, and to watch her kind of maneuver through that. She's a very quiet kid, doesn't ask for a lot of help, but I think she trusts herself, and it's cool to watch her just trust it to the last at bat. I think she's one of the best left fielders to ever play. She doesn't get enough credit for her defensive ability, but she definitely doesn't get it on the offensive side. That kid was born to hit. Very sweet swing, a very interesting swing, but she's getting smarter and smarter until the very last day she plays here. And I think it's one of those things to watch her just mature in an at bat instead of maybe in her freshman year she would have been frustrated by the fourth at bat.
Let's get to the Iowa game. You know, Bailey Kaler, we talked about her briefly. You brought her
Yep.
name up. I mean, again, kind of a similar situation there where you got a chance to break the game open. Got some help, I know, with the infield as well with her big single.
Yep.
But to come through with 2 outs to add to that lead, it's a big difference, Coach, of leaving that inning maybe 1-0 compared
Yep.
to leaving that inning when
Yep.
it's 3-0.
Yep. And she's one of those. She's toggling some time with a right-handed power righty, but I think they both understand that we can win games by using that approach. So we've been able, they're both great outfielders. So we've been doing a little bit of both, and that's the plan with the two of them. And she's just impressive because you can tell her something, and then she can do it. She never says, "Well, I would prefer to do this, that, or the other." She just does. She goes with a plan. So, and I've always appreciated that about her. Extremely mature, level-headed human being. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, but again, experience. So,
Looking towards this weekend now, we were talking before, like everyone may pay attention. They always like to go to the power leagues, and
Yep.
you'll see Purdue, and you'll get them twice, and it's a great opportunity to go up
Yep.
against more Big Ten teams. Supposed to get, four opportunities, especially we only got one with Iowa because
Right.
the last 3 got rained out. But nonetheless, South Dakota State, they've won 3 straight conference championships.
Yep.
Central Arkansas, they went to a regional for the first time since I think 2015, a year ago.
Yep.
South Dakota State and Central Arkansas on the front end, those are going to be 2 really difficult games for you.
Both very, very well coached. They recruit a lot around us. We recruit with and against them. South Dakota State is going to be hyper aggressive. They're going to want to go early. And I think Central Arkansas is a very hybrid type team. Good power, good speed. They're going to know their field. And I think what has to be in front of the committee is that we've played conference winners and we've won most of those games. I mean, none of these games this weekend are going to show up as a bad game. They're going to show up to the committee as important that they were played and won. So I think we had a great game with UCA down at Mississippi State a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. It ended up 9-7. It wouldn't surprise me if it ends up that way again. And I would love to see South Dakota State. I think they recruit a lot from the same area. So we're going to, I think we'll all end up seeing each other hopefully in the postseason. So
One of the areas, and scheduling is such a hard thing to do, but a lot of that I think Coach goes into is whoever you go to, whichever tournaments you go to, there's got to be a respect level and a trust factor from coach to coach of, that it's not just going to be it's not just going to be a weekend where you're just trying to get wins. It's
Right.
going to be a weekend where you get tested. How important is that for you from the relationships you build to be going across and looking with who to play, and how much it is where, look, I trust that when we go to this tournament, we enter this tournament, we're not going to be disappointed. We may not get the results we want, but you know what? We're going to be tested, and that's exactly what we want.
Well, I know we had a long conversation about it in the Valley meetings over the summer because I know coaches had complained a little bit about we don't know what we're showing up to sometimes. Sometimes teams drop out, they jump in at the last minute. Sometimes you end up playing, I've seen teams end up playing Oklahoma 4 times in a row because the other teams just leave. You really have to trust people, and state your intentions, I think,
Yeah.
and I think that's where like Jenny Parsons and the South Dakota State coach who came from an Arkansas Tech program who had been in the national title run, you really have to say, hey, here's what we're all looking for, and here's where we're trying to go. And I thought that was all the tournaments that we've ended up in have done that for us. So sometimes it's by accident. I'm not going to say that,
Yeah.
you always
Yep.
get it right, but I think our schedule so far has worked out really in our favor. And it continues even next weekend with Western Kentucky. He's going to be another good club. So
Numbers, analytics, RPI, whatever the case
Yeah.
is, it can always be in front of you and can somewhat overwhelm you early on. But
yeah.
in your eyes, when is the time of year to really say the numbers now you can trust? Because there's so much fluctuation now early on in the season, people trying to figure out where's the time of year where you can go, all right, we're getting kind of a good feel of where these numbers are going to be.
Yeah, I think we'll come into the Valley season probably knowing what we need to do. I think some coaches are very open with their teams about the at-large situation, and some just say, hey, we just let them play ball and we hope for the best at the end. I think for years now we've talked openly with our club about the at-large situation. Obviously, our kids have talked openly about, hey, conference, tournament championship, be ready to go on Selection Sunday. That's the easiest path. But I think they know that a lot of those years on our padded wall are from the at-large process. And I think keeping your reputation in the at-large process is key. And I think knowing going into the Valley and saying, hey, our job is to stay at the top, in the top 3 and be ready to go. There's been situations where the Valley has been close to a 3-bid league in the past. So, and I think unlike I've heard you talk about basketball and some of the other sports where they don't get the love,
Yeah.
2 and 3 deep, and they should. They're good clubs. They play great basketball, great fundamental basketball. But luckily, the Valley and softball has had that at large in our favor. So.
Well, and that's not to get off, because trust me, we can get off on a tangent and we can talk about this all day. But what has shown, regardless of the sport too, when Valley teams get in, they have success.
Yes.
I mean, it's not
Yep.
just like, oh, they get in and then all of a
Yep.
sudden people are like, this is an easy out.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's you. And even at times, there's been years where maybe not the best Valley team wins the conference
Exactly.
tournament and gets hot, and they still go and they give
And
teams
play
fits.
great. Yeah, I remember beating Kansas a few years ago. We sent Bradley the first few years I was here. Missouri State's played very well. UNI's played very well. Illinois State's played very well in the tournament. I don't think in our softball tournament of 64 that they want to see a Valley team. I think they know that we play good softball and that we're going to come prepared and ready to go. And I think I'll never forget at the Utah Regional, we shook hands at the end of the Utah game, and that head coach said, I think I'm going to see you in the regional final. And I said, I hope you see these kids in the regional final. That's how well they're playing. So I think everyone there could have won it, and I'll never forget that experience of people wanted to know what we were doing at that time. And I said, we're not doing anything special. They're playing that well right now. They're just ready to go and playing that well.
Well, Coach, we are excited for this weekend, of course. It is the Michelle Short Memorial Classic. It all starts Friday night with South Dakota State, and then it'll be Central Arkansas on Saturday with Purdue, the second game of the doubleheader on Saturday, and then Purdue one game on Sunday. It'll be 12:30 on Sunday, 6:30 on Saturday, 4 o'clock on Saturday, and then 6 o'clock on Friday. Coach Sewell, thanks so much for the time. Good luck this weekend, and
Thank you.
let's hope for some really good weather.
I know, right? And baseball will be there too, so tune in
Yes.
for both of us. It's going to be great. We're going to get to see each other play. So.
Absolutely. For more on Saluki softball, you know where to stay. That's right here at SIUSalukis.com.